Hey campers, what's up? It's Yana. Welcome to day 26 of Camp NaNoWriMo July 2020. And today we're kind of building on yesterday's topic. So yesterday we talked about death and death scenes and killing characters and when that is done well and how to do it well, and when it's done badly or when it's unnecessary. Now in my story, I have a lot of dangerous stuff happening, so I'm gonna end up with a body count. But because I don't want to kill all of my characters and I don't want to kill too many of my characters, but I do still want to keep up the tension, I'm gonna have some fake outs. And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about fake outs, or in other words, those times in a book or a movie or any type of story where you think that something has happened and you go, oh no, but then it is revealed that the thing hasn't actually happened. And a lot of the time this is a character death, but it doesn't have to be. For example, if it's a romance, it could be you think that the main couple has split forever and they've decided not to be together at the end of the movie, but then a bus moves off the screen and you see the other part of the romantic pair waiting on the other side, and then they run towards each other and fall into each other's arms. So that is also a type of fake out. There are other types when somebody thinks that they have won a battle and they are already cheering and triumphant, but then something happens and they haven't. It's basically just fooling the reader or fooling the audience. In my case, I have mostly been thinking about how to do that with character deaths. And this is quite a difficult thing to do simply because it has been done too much. It's a very, very common trope, technique, whatever you want to call it, and it's very easy to mess it up. Mostly because nowadays readers are clever. They've read a lot of books, they've seen this happen again and again, and they are very likely to go, yo, you're bluffing. This character is not actually dead, is he or is she? They're not actually dead. So this of course makes our job very difficult, and it's been really funny today because I literally have a list of characters written on a piece of paper, and I've been going, okay, could I do it with this one? Am I killing this one for real? Is this one gonna die? Is this one gonna survive? Is this one going to fake die but then reappear? And I've been just trying to figure out what I can get away with that will seem believable. And my conclusion was I kind of split them into character types, and I tried to figure out which character types would work for which sort of thing. And the first obvious conclusion is that there's really not much point to trying to attempt, those two words mean the same thing. There's really not much point attempting a fake out with the person who is very obviously your main character and they very obviously have plot immunity. Unless you intend to actually kill them and be surprising in that way, unless you really genuinely kill your main character in the middle of your book and they never come back and somebody else kind of takes over and becomes the main character, then there's no point ever trying to make the reader think that they're in danger, because that's the only way to make it interesting, and they will be genuinely surprised if you actually kill your main character. But if you pretend to kill them and then they come back, that's just a little bit lame. It doesn't work, does it? Because everyone's seen this trick before. We all know how it's done. So main character kind of out of the question. Even if you have an ensemble cast, usually it's pretty clear which characters are kind of driving the story. If the reader can figure out that once this character dies, it will be difficult for the story to continue and make sense, then they already know the character's not gonna die. You have to put them in danger in different ways that are not killing them. You could create a lot of suspense around whether that character will be happy at the end of the story, and often that's enough, because you can keep a character alive, but if everybody they love is dead, or if they've lost something that they really care about, that is plenty to base conflict and emotional impact on for a reader. So I think in most cases, unless your story is like a much more unique type of story where the main character dying is kind of really a major, or dying and coming back to life is like a really major, or not coming back to life, but like turning out to be alive is part of the plot, and it's super important for the main plot, probably just leave them alone. Okay, so main characters out. What other types of people in a story are kind of a believable person to try a fake out with? There are some that seem like they're a good idea, but are usually not actually a good idea. Those include somebody's parents, unless you're very careful. So the parents being dead and then turning out to be alive can be done well, but it's risky because it's also one of those things that kind of has been done a lot. So that one, and also somebody's parents are usually not central characters, so it doesn't matter too much. The readers just kind of take it as, oh, that's nice. I guess this main character's parents turn out to be alive. Well, it's a bit cheesy, but I guess it's kind of nice. So it doesn't have that much of an impact unless those parents are like super involved and actual proper main characters. Another one that doesn't usually work very well is the innocent character. Like that's either a comic relief character that is very good-hearted, but not a main character, kind of just there for laughs. So those characters, it seems like they're a good idea because they do kind of tend to die a lot. You know, it's the dramatic irony of, you know, they're making jokes and being super lighthearted, and then they're dead and you're supposed to cry because it's so sad. Because they die very often, that kind of makes you think that it would be quite believable if you say that they're dead, and then it would be kind of nice when it turns out they're not. And that's true, but once it turns out that they're not dead, I feel like, at least for me as a reader, my brain does this thing where it's like, oh, I knew they were not going to be actually dead. I knew all along because they're too cute and it was obvious that the audience wouldn't want them dead, so I always knew that they wouldn't end up dead. And then the twist feels kind of lame. Even though, objectively speaking, those characters do actually fairly often die. But when they seem to die and then they're not dead, I just find it kind of a cop-out. I'm like, oh, well, of course you didn't kill them because you knew the audience liked them, so... And then the other type of innocent characters are kids. And obviously, killing kids, even in a story, is very dark and horrible, and it doesn't happen all that often in most stories. I have done it. I have done it because I like to have an element of horror and sometimes very dark themes. But doing it as a fake out suggests that you're doing it with an established character, and I feel like that's a bit different to just talking about dead children in a story. If it's done with an established character, I feel like it won't be very easy for your audience to believe that you would do it in the first place, and therefore it would be difficult for the fake out to work, unless it's obvious that what you're writing is a very dark story. Then I guess if it's a very, very dark story, I guess a fake out could work with anyone, because if the audience believes that anyone could die because that's just the type of story, then you could technically attempt it with anyone. There is, however, one particular type of cutesy, innocent characters that if you want me to like your book, I advise you to not ever do any real deaths with. You are allowed to do fake outs, and I will always forgive you. And this category is animals. I don't care how lame it is. I don't care how obvious it is. I will always rather you faked out with an animal dead than the animal actually being dead. Maybe that's just me. I get a lot more emotional, and I'm much more heavily affected by animal deaths in stories than I am by human deaths. I just think it has something to do with the fact that in real life it's so easy for an animal to die that it just hits a little close to home. Humans are in most cases a little less fragile and are not often, unless we're talking about diseases, but are not as often put in situations where they might get killed, whereas animals and pets and anything like that, all of these really innocent things who can't speak, and yeah, I would always rather you did a fake out. You're totally allowed, always. You can pretend to kill them and then bring them back, and every time I will cheer. You have me. It's fine. That's okay. Okay, so then we get into who can we pretend to kill and have the audience react and then be happy when they aren't dead. So one of the character types where pretending to kill them off really works is the mentor. Because the mentors, they die in like the majority of stories, because the mentor has to die in order for the hero to then, continue their journey independently. They've finished their training, they've learned what they could from the mentor, and then they go on. And you've got Dumbledore, you've got Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, what have you, a whole bunch of wise old guys that end up dead once the hero reaches a certain point in their training and a certain level of maturity. So if you then bring back that mentor and they turn out not to be dead, it's kind of a surprise. It's the Gandalf thing. And it really does work with Gandalf because he's the type of character, he's the old wise wizard, where you're like, yeah, he's an old guy. He says a lot of wise stuff. We don't need him in the rest of the story. It's logical for him to die and for Frodo to be very sad and everybody to be crying, and then we forget about him. So then when Gandalf does come back and comes back as a really badass fighter, just throwing magic everywhere and battling Balrogs and just saving the day, that's kind of cool because it's unexpected. So you can bring back a mentor. And I don't necessarily mean actually bring them back from the dead. It could just turn out they're not actually dead, which I suppose is what happens with Gandalf. But you have to then make sure that they are a solid character beyond being a mentor. They have to have something to do. Then the other, I think the best type of character to fake kill off is the anti-hero. It's the black sheep in the party or in the family. It's the type of character that I almost always love, and they end up dead a lot of the time. There's Boromir in Lord of the Rings. There's Dinobot in Beast Wars. Both of those I've mentioned previously when I talked about anti-heroes in that other video. So I personally feel incredibly satisfied when there's a fake out, a well done fake out with a character like that, because I'm always so frustrated when they die, because it's such a cliche to kill them, that if you manage to fool me and make me think that they're dead, but then you bring them back, I'm just like, yes! So long as you do it reasonably well. It doesn't have to be genius, it just needs to be at least a little bit believable. And I have a very good example of that. Actually, he's behind me. Diego in Ice Age. One of my all-time favorite animated movies. Really wish it didn't have sequels, but what can you do? Gotta get that money. Diego is a brilliant example of a fake out. That one really got me. So basically what happens is, in case you haven't watched Ice Age, it's about a bunch of unlikely friends who are animals from the Ice Age. You've got a giant sloth, a mammoth, and a saber-toothed tiger. So to begin with, the saber-toothed tiger is kind of following them because he wants to eat a baby that they're trying to save. So that's the whole story. A bunch of guys, animal guys, find the human baby and they're trying to bring it back to the humans while evil saber-toothed tigers are trying to kill it. That's it. Simple, beautiful, perfectly executed. So Diego starts out being on the evil side. Immediately in the movie, it's clear that he's going to have a transformation and become friends with the other guys and start to care about the baby. All of that is very obvious. Also very expected is him fighting the bad guy and then apparently dying to save the baby. It's just such a logical thing to happen in the story, and it works. And if they had done it like that, the story would completely work. Like, it's absolutely plausible. You don't immediately go, oh, there's no way he's dead, because the movie, even though it's extremely humorous, has enough drama in it. Like, you have Manfred the Mammoth, whose family has been murdered by humans. Like, that's pretty dark for a kids' movie. So it's very easy to believe, because of the tone that has been set and because of the deep, serious themes, it's very easy to believe that this character is actually dead, gone, he redeemed himself, bye-bye. And then he shows up at the end of the movie, and I swear, I know it is so sentimental and so cheesy, but I was so happy, because I was like, oh my god, you know, that's actually original. Don't kill your interesting character, keep him around. We want to see more of him, because I know you're gonna make sequels, it's obvious. So that was a really well done one that really got me. Anyway, I think the bottom line is writing a fake out will work best with characters that you can imagine actually killing. Like, there's one universe where that character is actually dead. You yourself as the author can imagine that happening in your book. If you can do that, then chances are you might be able to make your readers believe that you've actually killed them. But just make sure that the way they come back is well explained and makes sense. Don't just do a Jesus thing or leave it without explanation. Just try to be clever about it, because it's such a good opportunity to play with your readers' feelings. You may as well take advantage of it. So that was my little analysis of what I've been doing today. Still on my quest to torture and kill and maim characters, and I guess make their friends very sad because they think they're dead. That has been kind of the theme for the last few videos. I think we're just in that part of the story right now, because we've entered into the action. Even though I'm writing it out of order, once you start writing one scene about a certain thing, it usually kind of inspires a scene that's connected, even if it's not like the next consecutive one. So I'm kind of in that part of the story where there's loads of action and people are dying and there's drama and all of that. Like, we're right in the middle. It's building up. So that's the reason for all of these kind of dark themes about death, torture, and sadness and tragedy. It's not really that much of a tragic story. Okay, that's all I've got for today. Thank you guys very much for watching, and let me know if you ever do fake outs in your stories. Do you enjoy them when they happen in stories that you read? Do you have any tips for how to make them work? And what kinds of characters have you done that with? Is it kind of, does it follow the rules that I mentioned for what works and what doesn't? Or do you disagree? Do you have some other ideas? So thanks again very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Bye!